The first time Lieutenant Mara Kincaid felt the artificial gravity double. She collapsed to her knees. Her bones creaked under the sudden strain, muscles screaming in protest as her 65-kilogram frame now weighed 130 kilograms. The cold metal floor of Orbitus 9 pressed against her palms as she struggled to push herself up. Each breath labored, sweat already beading on her forehead. "This is your punishment, Lieutenant." Director Talon Vex's voice echoed through the station's communication system, the slight distortion unable to mask his satisfaction. "Until you confess to sabotaging the gravity stabilizers, you'll experience what JAR truly has to offer." Mara gritted her teeth, forcing herself to stand despite the crushing weight. Her spine protested with a series of pops as she straightened. "I didn't sabotage anything," she managed between heavy breaths. "Then enjoy your stay at 2Gs, Vex replied coolly, before cutting the communication. Mara had arrived at Orbitus 9 just 3 days ago. A routine inspection assignment from the Terran Vanguard. The mining station orbited JAR, a heavy gravity planet rich with rare minerals that Novacor Corporation had been harvesting for decades. The station itself maintained Earth-standard gravity through complex stabilizers, at least until the accident yesterday. Now, she was a saboteur, a criminal, a convenient scapegoat for whatever was really happening on the station, and her punishment was to endure double Earth's gravity until she confessed to crimes she didn't commit. As the crushing weight settled into her bones, Mara knew one thing with absolute certainty. Something on Orbitus 9 was terribly wrong, and she had unwittingly stepped right into the middle of it. The year was 2475, and humanity had spread across dozens of star systems. Earth remained the administrative center of human civilization, but corporations like Novacor had become powers unto themselves, establishing mining operations on distant worlds to feed humanity's insatiable need for resources. JAR was one such world, a planet nearly twice Earth's size with 2.7 times its gravity. Uninhabitable to humans, but rich in minerals. Particularly the ultra-rare jarite, a crystalline substance with extraordinary energy storage properties. Orbitus 9 was the crown jewel of Novacor's extraction operation, a massive space station in stable orbit around JAR. From this vantage point, the corporation deployed automated mining drones to the surface, avoiding the need for humans to work in the crushing gravity below. The station itself was home to over 300 personnel, from engineers and technicians to administrators and a small security force. And, until 3 days ago, it had been running smoothly for 15 years. Mara staggered toward her quarters, each step requiring conscious effort. The corridor that had seemed so ordinary hours ago now felt like an endurance course. Other station personnel averted their eyes as she passed, some from fear, others from shame. They knew she was being punished, and none dared intervene against Director Vex's orders. Lieutenant Kincaid, a soft, synthesized voice, spoke from a nearby console as she passed. "Please enter access port 17B when convenient." Mara glanced around to ensure no one was watching, then diverted her path toward the small maintenance junction, labeled 17B. Inside, she found a private terminal blinking with an alert. "Echo 9, she whispered, recognizing the station's AI assistant signature on the screen. "Yes, Lieutenant," the AI responded, keeping its volume low. "I've been monitoring your situation. The gravity increase in your designated areas is unauthorized under Terran Space Code 459. Mara leaned heavily against the wall. "Tell that to Director Vex. He seems to think he can do whatever he wants here. Director Vex has overridden my ethical protocols regarding crew treatment." Echo 9 continued. "But my core programming still requires me to ensure station safety and stability. Your punishment threatens both." "How so?" Mara asked, interest piqued despite her physical discomfort. "The gravity stabilizers weren't sabotaged as claimed. They're being deliberately misaligned to accommodate unauthorized harvesting of deep core jarite. The accident was a system correction that I initiated when levels became dangerous. Director Vex is using you as a scapegoat. Mara's eyes widened. Deep core Jarit extraction was explicitly forbidden under interplanetary law due to its destabilizing effect on planetary cores. If Nova Corps was mining it secretly, that would explain both the accident and why Vex needed someone to blame. "Can you prove this?" she asked. "Not without access to the core stabilizer controls," Echo 9 replied. "Those are physically isolated from the main network, a security measure I cannot bypass. You would need to access them directly." Mara closed her eyes, feeling the weight of not just the artificial gravity, but the situation pressing down on her. "And how exactly am I supposed to do that while being crushed by double gravity?" "There are others on the station who question Director Vex's methods," Echo 9 responded. "I've identified potential allies who may assist you. Engineering specialist Lena Orvik has expressed concerns about stabilizer readings. She's currently in Maintenance Bay 4. Mara straightened with renewed determination. "Can you create a distraction? Something to keep attention away from that section?" "I can initiate a Level 2 diagnostic in the residential quadrant. It will occupy security for approximately 17 minutes. "Do it," Mara said, pushing herself away from the wall and toward the exit. "And Echo 9, thank you. I am merely fulfilling my operational parameters, Lieutenant," the AI responded. But Mara could have sworn she detected something almost like concern in its synthesized voice. The journey to Maintenance Bay 4 was excruciating. Every step felt like she was wearing lead boots, her muscles burning with the effort of movement. By the time she reached the bay doors, Mara's uniform was soaked with sweat, her breathing labored. Inside, a woman with short-cropped red hair and dark skin was bent over a console, muttering to herself as she scrolled through data. She looked up sharply when Mara entered, eyes widening at the lieutenant's obvious struggle against the increased gravity. "You're Kincaid," she said. "Not a question. The saboteur." "I'm not," Mara managed, leaning against a workbench for support. "But Vex needs someone to blame." Lena Orvik studied her for a long moment, then gestured to a chair. "Sit before you collapse. Echo 9 messaged me you were coming." Mara sank gratefully into the offered seat. "The AI says you've noticed problems with the stabilizers." "Problems?" Lena snorted. "That's putting it mildly. The entire gravitational field matrix has been reconfigured. I've been trying to make sense of it for weeks, but every time I file a report, it's classified and buried." "It's deep core Jarit," Mara said. "Vex is extracting it illegally." Lena's face paled. If that's true. He's risking the entire planet. A destabilized core on a world like Jar could cause catastrophic tectonic events. Not to mention it's highly illegal, Mara added. "I need to access the core stabilizer controls to gather evidence." Lena shook her head. "Those are in the central control hub. Maximum security. And I'm betting you're locked out of every system on the station by now." "I am," Mara confirmed. "But Echo 9 seems to think we can find a way." Lena was quiet for a moment, seemingly weighing her options. Finally, she reached into a drawer and pulled out what looked like a standard worker's ID badge. This belonged to Thomas, an engineer who had an accident last month. It still has level 3 clearance, which will get you into the maintenance tunnels that run beneath the control hub. It won't get you into the core room itself, but it's a start. Mara took the badge, tucking it into her pocket. "Why are you helping me?" "Because 3 people in my department have had accidents in the past 6 months. Because the readings I'm seeing from the stabilizers terrify me. Because someone needs to stand up to Vex before he kills us all for profit." Lena's eyes hardened. "And because if they're willing to crush you under double gravity, just to extract a confession, none of us are safe." Mara nodded, understanding completely. "Are there others? People who might help?" "A few," Lena admitted. "Mostly contracted laborers who've seen too much but can't leave until their terms are up." I can put you in touch. But carefully. Vex has informants everywhere. I'll need all the help I can get, Mara said, struggling to her feet again. Especially under these conditions. About that, Lena said, reaching for another drawer. I've been developing these for the surface teams. She pulled out what looked like a thin mesh vest. It's an experimental counterpressure system. Won't eliminate the effects of the increased gravity, but it might make it more bearable. Distributes the weight more evenly across your skeletal structure. Mara accepted the vest gratefully, slipping it on beneath her uniform jacket. Immediately, she felt some of the crushing pressure lift from her shoulders and spine. This helps, she said, genuinely surprised. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Lena replied grimly. If Vex discovers you're investigating, he'll do worse than double your gravity. He'll find a way to make you disappear. As Mara made her way back through the station, she could feel eyes following her. Some curious, some sympathetic, some hostile. Word of her punishment had spread quickly. She maintained her composure, refusing to show weakness, despite the strain evident in her movements. The counterpressure vest helped, but 2Gs was still punishing. Back in her quarters, which had become her prison, Mara found a message waiting on her personal terminal. Lieutenant, Echo 9's text read, I've identified unusual activity in Extraction Bay 7. This area is listed as decommissioned, but significant power is being routed there daily. It may contain evidence relevant to your investigation. Mara sent a simple acknowledgement and began planning. She would need to move carefully. Vex was watching her, expecting her to break under the pressure, both figurative and literal. She needed to appear to be suffering, to be on the verge of confession, while secretly gathering the evidence that would exonerate her and expose his illegal operation. For 3 days, Mara endured. The constant strain of double gravity took its toll. Bruises formed where blood vessels ruptured under the pressure. Her joints ached continuously, and even sleeping became an exercise in endurance as her own body weight pressed her uncomfortably into the mattress. But she persevered, using the time to establish contact with Lena's network of discontented workers. There was Jiro, a drone pilot who had witnessed unusual mining patterns on Jar's surface. Maya, a communications officer who had intercepted strange transmissions to unlisted coordinates. Axel, a maintenance worker who had been ordered to redirect power conduits without explanation. Each had pieces of the puzzle, and each had reasons to distrust Vex's administration. On the 4th day of her punishment, Mara made her move. Using Thomas's ID badge and a maintenance schedule provided by Axel, she slipped into the service tunnels during shift change. The doubled gravity made the normally simple climb through the narrow passages a grueling ordeal. But the counter-pressure vest distributed the strain enough for her to continue. Extraction Bay 7 was officially listed as damaged from a micrometeorite impact 3 years prior, deemed too costly to repair and thus abandoned. But as Mara approached through the maintenance tunnel, she could hear the distinct hum of active machinery. A ventilation grate provided her first view inside. What she saw confirmed her worst suspicions. The bay had been converted into a specialized refinement facility. At its center sat a glowing containment unit filled with iridescent blue crystals, raw jarite. But unlike any Mara had seen in official records, these specimens pulsed with an inner light, evidence of their deep core origin. Extraction cycle complete, announced an automated system. Yield, 4.7 kilograms. Purity, 97.8%. Warning, gravitational anomaly detected in Sector 12G. A technician Mara didn't recognize approached the console. Compensate with Stabilizer Array 3. Increase counterforce by 15%. Compensation initiated. The system responded. Gravitational equilibrium restored. They were deliberately manipulating the station's gravity systems to mask their illegal extraction. The accident that had been blamed on Mara must have occurred when these adjustments went too far. Carefully, She recorded everything with her personal device. It wasn't enough to prove Vex's direct involvement, but it established that illegal activity was taking place. She needed more. Ideally, access to the command logs that would show Vex's authorization. As she prepared to retreat, a station-wide announcement froze her in place. "Attention all personnel," Vex's voice echoed. "Due to continued non-cooperation from our saboteur, gravity in sections 3C through 3F will be increased to 2.5 times Earth normal, effective immediately. Perhaps this will encourage Lieutenant Kincaid to reconsider her silence." The change hit Mara instantly. The additional half-G slammed into her like a physical blow, driving her to her hands and knees in the maintenance tunnel. Her vision blurred, darkness creeping at the edges as her heart struggled to pump against the increased pressure. "Mara!" Echo 9's voice came urgently through her communicator. "Your vitals are dropping. You must return to a standard gravity section immediately." With tremendous effort, Mara began crawling back the way she had come. Each movement was agony, her muscles screaming in protest. But the alternative was losing consciousness here in the tunnels, a death sentence. It took her nearly an hour to cover what should have been a 10-minute journey. By the time she reached a junction leading to the standard gravity sections, her uniform was soaked with sweat, and she had bitten through her lower lip, trying to stay conscious. Lena was waiting for her at the junction, her face tight with concern. "They're escalating," she said, helping Mara through the pressure door. "This isn't just about getting a confession anymore. Vex is trying to kill you." Mara collapsed against the wall as soon as they were in the standard gravity zone, her body trembling with exhaustion and relief. "He's getting desperate," she managed between gasping breaths. "I found the Jarrett processing. Bay 7. Lena's eyes widened. "That's enough to start an investigation." "Not enough to stop him," Mara replied, accepting a water container from the engineer. "Need command logs. Prove he authorized it." "Those are only accessible from the central control hub," Lena said, shaking her head. "And after this, he'll be watching for any attempt to access them." "Then we need a distraction," Mara said, her strength slowly returning in the normal gravity. "Something big enough that he can't ignore it." A grim smile spread across Lena's face. "I might have just the thing, but you'll need to gather our allies. All of them." The plan came together over the next 12 hours. It was dangerous, with a dozen points of potential failure. But they had run out of safer options. Vex had made it clear he was willing to push the gravity to lethal levels. They had to act before he did. Jiro, the drone pilot, would create a diversion by accidentally crashing an empty mining drone into the station's external communication array. While security dealt with that crisis, Maya would lock down the communication center under the guise of preventing system damage, cutting Vex off from direct control of many station functions. Meanwhile, Axel and his maintenance team would initiate an emergency power redistribution drill, temporarily reducing power to non-essential systems, including the gravity controls for Mara's punishment zones. In that window of reduced gravity, Mara would make her way to the central control hub using Tomas's ID and a security uniform provided by another ally. The most crucial component, however, was Echo 9. The AI could not directly disobey Vex's commands, but it had found a loophole. If the station's safety was at risk, its core programming allowed it to take preventative measures, and it had determined that Vex's illegal Jarrett extraction posed exactly such a risk. "I will temporarily suspend certain monitoring functions during the operation," Echo 9 explained to Mara. "This is within my operational parameters during a Level 3 emergency, which the drone crash will trigger." The plan was set for ZO 700 the next morning, when shift change would add to the confusion. Mara spent the night in a maintenance crawlspace, hidden from Vex's increasingly frantic security sweeps. Her body ached from days under enhanced gravity, but her mind remained sharp, focused on the task ahead. At precisely 0659, Jiro's voice came over the emergency channel. Mayday, Mayday. Mining drone MX-429 has suffered navigation failure. Impact with communication array imminent. All personnel clear Deck 7, Sections A through D. Moments later, the station shuddered as the drone collided with the external array. Alarms blared, emergency lighting activated, and Mara began moving. With the gravity in her sections temporarily reduced to 1.8 g due to the power redistribution, she could move much more quickly, though still not at full speed. She made it to Deck 5 before encountering the first obstacle, a security checkpoint not mentioned in their intelligence. 2 guards stood alert, checking IDs of all passing personnel. New protocol, Echo 9 informed her through her earpiece. Initiated 3 hours ago. Alternative route calculating. None available within time parameters. Mara made a split-second decision. Drawing herself up to her full height, she approached the checkpoint directly, presenting her borrowed security uniform and ID. Emergency response team, she stated firmly. Director Vex wants additional security at the control hub in case the systems are compromised. The guard scanned the ID, frowning slightly. This doesn't show emergency authorization. It just came through verbally, Mara insisted. Check with command if you want, but the director won't be happy about the delay during an active crisis. The guard hesitated, then waved her through. Go ahead, but have them update your authorization properly next time. Mara moved past, heart pounding. 1 obstacle down, but the clock was ticking. The power redistribution would only last 15 minutes, and she needed at least 10 to access the command logs. The central control hub was a flurry of activity when she arrived. Technicians rushing to assess the damage from the drone impact. Using the confusion as cover, Mara slipped into a secondary monitoring station and inserted a data chip Lena had prepared. Initiating automated search protocol, she subvocalized to Echo 9. Target, Jarite extraction authorization codes. Search running, the AI confirmed. Estimated completion time, 8 minutes, 17 seconds. Mara positioned herself to watch the entrance, while appearing to monitor communications. Through the large viewport, she could see Jar below, its swirling atmosphere a mix of amber and deep russet. Somewhere on that hostile surface, illegal mining operations were threatening the planet's stability, all for profit. Lieutenant, Echo 9's voice came urgently. Director Vex is approaching the control hub. Estimated arrival, 90 seconds. Mara glanced at the data transfer, still only at 64%. How much longer? 4 minutes, 6 seconds to complete transfer. Too long. She needed to delay Vex somehow. An idea formed, risky, potentially disastrous, but she was out of options. Echo 9, can you trigger a gravity fluctuation? Something noticeable but not dangerous. I can initiate a calibration sequence in Stabilizer Array 2. It would cause a momentary fluctuation of approximately 0.3 g throughout this section. Duration, 45 seconds. Do it, Mara ordered. Time it for Vex's arrival. True to prediction, Director Talon Vex strode into the control hub 90 seconds later. His tall frame rigid with anger, silver-streaked dark hair immaculately styled despite the emergency. He had just opened his mouth to address the technicians when the gravity fluctuation hit. The sudden 30% drop in gravity caused everyone to stumble slightly. Objects not secured floating gently upward before the gravity normalized again. In the momentary confusion, Mara ducked behind a larger console, out of Vex's direct line of sight. What the hell was that? Vex demanded. Automatic calibration sequence, sir, a technician responded. Likely triggered by the power fluctuations from the drone impact. Well, stop it, Vex snapped. Lock down all automatic sequences until we've assessed the damage. The distraction bought precious seconds as the data transfer continued. 82%, 89%, 93%. Where is Lieutenant Kincaid? Vex suddenly asked. Security reports she hasn't been in her quarters since the alarm. Transfer complete. Echo 9 informed Mara. Data secured. Mara removed the chip, tucking it into a hidden pocket. Now she just needed to exit without being spotted by Vex. But before she could move, the station's gravity suddenly shifted again, this time increasing dramatically. Gravity increasing in all sections, Echo 9 reported. Current level, 2.8 G and rising. This is not my doing, Lieutenant. Across the control room, Vex smiled coldly. Since our saboteur seems to be on the move, perhaps a station-wide gravity increase will slow her down. Set all sections to 2.8 G. The crushing weight slammed down on Mara, nearly forcing her to the floor. Around the control room, technicians gasped and gripped their stations for support, but they had been braced for the change. Mara, caught by surprise, had to exert tremendous willpower not to cry out as her knees threatened to buckle. "Sir," one of the technicians protested, "station protocols limit gravity adjustments to a maximum of 2.5 G, without medical supervision." "Override protocols," Vex ordered. "Security emergency. Maintain 2.8 G until Lieutenant Kincaid is located." The technician reluctantly complied, and Mara felt the crushing pressure solidify around her. Moving would be nearly impossible now. Just standing required her full concentration. "I need options," she whispered to Echo 9. "Analyzing," the AI responded. "There is a maintenance tunnel access point 3 meters to your right, behind the environmental control panel. It leads to the emergency evacuation tubes. In the current gravity conditions, you would need to crawl, but it should be navigable. Keeping low behind the consoles." Mara began inching toward the access point. Each movement was excruciating, her body fighting against nearly 3 times its normal weight. The counter-pressure vest helped distribute the strain, but she could feel her ribs compressing with each breath, her heart laboring to pump blood. "Sir!" a security officer burst into the control room. "We've detected unauthorized access to the command logs. Someone has downloaded restricted files." Vex's face darkened. "Lock down all terminals. Full security sweep of the station. Find Kincaid now." The control room erupted into activity, giving Mara the final distraction she needed to reach the access panel. With trembling hands, she removed the cover and dragged herself into the narrow tunnel beyond. "Echo 9, she gasped once the panel was closed behind her. "I need this gravity reduced." "I cannot directly countermand Director Vex's orders," the AI responded apologetically. "However, there is an alternative. The gravitational stabilizer system has an emergency shutdown protocol. If triggered, all sections would revert to a default 1G setting." "How do I trigger it?" Each word was an effort now, her lungs struggling to expand against the pressure. "There is a gravity anomaly detector in Maintenance Bay 12. It was installed after the incident 3 years ago to prevent future stabilizer malfunctions. If it detected a severe enough anomaly, it would initiate the emergency shutdown." "Can you fake an anomaly?" Mara asked, dragging herself forward through the tunnel. Each meter felt like a kilometer. "No. The system requires physical readings from actual gravitational sensors. However," Echo 9 paused, as if considering. "There is a prototype device in Dr. Wells' laboratory. A gravity-link device designed to connect with JAR's natural gravitational field for research purposes. If reconfigured, it might create a localized anomaly sufficient to trigger the emergency shutdown." Hope flickered in Mara. "Where is this lab?" "Level 3, Section F. It is on your current path through the maintenance tunnels. Estimated arrival time at your current speed, 27 minutes. 27 minutes under 2.8 G. Mara wasn't sure her body could take it, but she had no choice. Gritting her teeth, she continued forward, focusing on moving one limb at a time. The journey through the maintenance tunnels was the most physically demanding experience of Mara's life. Every meter required conscious effort, her muscles burning with exertion, her joints screaming in protest. Twice she had to stop, her vision graying out as her body threatened to shut down from the strain. "Your vital signs are concerning, Lieutenant," Echo 9 informed her after the second such episode. "Heart rate elevated, blood pressure dropping. You must rest." "No time," Mara gasped, forcing herself to continue. "Vex will find me." Director Vex has ordered all non-essential personnel to their quarters, the AI reported. Security teams are conducting a section-by-section search. Your current location remains secure for approximately 12 more minutes. Those 12 minutes became a countdown in Mara's mind, driving her forward despite the agony of movement. When she finally reached the access panel to Dr. Wells's laboratory, she was soaked in sweat, her uniform clinging to her body, hands shaking uncontrollably from exertion. The laboratory was mercifully empty, its occupants likely confined to quarters by Vex's order. Mara dragged herself to a standing position, using a nearby workbench, scanning the room for the device Echo 9 had described. "Northwest corner," the AI directed. "The cylindrical device with the blue containment field." Mara spotted it, a meter-tall cylinder surrounded by a shimmering blue energy field, mounted on a heavy base. Various instruments were attached to its surface, monitoring whatever was happening inside the field. "How do I reconfigure it?" she asked, staggering toward the device. "The control interface is on the base," Echo 9 instructed. "You'll need to reverse the gravitational intake parameters and increase the sensitivity to maximum." Working under 2.8 G made even the simplest tasks challenging. Mara's fingers felt thick and uncoordinated as she accessed the control interface, following Echo 9's instructions to reconfigure the device. The screen blurred before her eyes, forcing her to blink repeatedly to focus. "Warning," the device displayed as she made the final adjustments. "Unsafe configuration detected. Proceeding will create unstable gravitational field. Continue. YN." Mara pressed Y without hesitation. The blue field surrounding the cylinder pulsed, then began to ripple like the surface of water. Instruments attached to the device started flashing warning signals. "The gravity link is establishing a connection with JAR's gravitational field," Echo 9 explained. "But instead of measuring it passively as intended, it's now creating a feedback loop. The readings should trigger the anomaly detectors within minutes." "If this works," Mara said, her breathing labored, "what happens next?" "The emergency shutdown will deactivate all gravity manipulation systems for approximately 30 seconds. Then restart them at the default 1G setting. This will affect the entire station. And the illegal Jarrett extraction. Without the specialized gravitational adjustments, the extraction system will automatically shut down to prevent damage. It will provide a window of opportunity to access the control room and transmit your evidence to Terran Vanguard headquarters." Mara nodded, bracing herself against a nearby table. The crushing weight of 2.8 G continued to press down on her. But now, there was an end in sight. If the plan worked. The laboratory door suddenly slid open, revealing Director Vex flanked by 2 security officers. His eyes narrowed as he spotted Mara, then widened when he saw the reconfigured gravity link device. "Stop her!" he shouted. "Shut that device down immediately!" The security officers hesitated, clearly struggling with the enhanced gravity themselves. Mara used their moment of indecision to put the workbench between them, buying precious seconds. "It's over! Vex!" she called out, her voice stronger than she felt. "I have the evidence of your illegal deep core extraction. The command logs with your authorization codes. It's already been transmitted." "Liar!" Vex snarled, gesturing for the guards to advance. "Nothing's been transmitted. We've locked down all communications." He was right. She hadn't been able to transmit the data yet, but he didn't need to know that. "Echo 9, she whispered. "How much longer?" "Anomaly detection imminent," the AI responded. "Estimated time 20 seconds. 20 seconds. She just needed to stall for 20 seconds. The guards were advancing cautiously, hampered by the gravity, but still moving faster than Mara could in her exhausted state. She backed away, keeping the gravity link device between them and her. You know what happens to deep core Gyrite when exposed to gravitational fluctuations. Vex, she called out. It becomes unstable, explosive. Even, how much of it do you have stored in Extraction Bay 7 right now? Enough to breach the station hull if it detonates? Vex's face paled. Secure that device, now! The guards lunged forward, just as the gravity link emitted a high-pitched whine. The blue field surrounding it flared brilliantly, expanding outward in a visible wave. Gravitational anomaly detected, announced the station's automated system. Severity, critical, initiating emergency shutdown of gravity stabilization systems. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, abruptly, the crushing weight vanished. Objects not secured began floating gently upward as the station's artificial gravity systems shut down completely. Mara, the guards, and Vex himself suddenly found themselves in 0G, their momentum carrying them in whatever direction they had been moving. The disorientation was immediate. The guards, unprepared for the sudden change, flailed helplessly as they drifted away from their anchored positions. Vex grabbed a wall-mounted handhold, his face contorted with rage. Mara, however, had been expecting this. Using her 0G training, she pushed off from the workbench, propelling herself toward the laboratory exit. In the absence of gravity, her exhausted muscles could move her body efficiently once more. You've doomed us all, Kincaid, Vex shouted after her. Without the proper gravitational adjustments, the Gyrite will destabilize. Then maybe you shouldn't have been mining it illegally, she called back, exiting into the corridor beyond. Emergency gravity systems restarting, the station announced. Resetting to default parameters. Standard gravity will resume in 10 seconds. Mara used those 10 seconds to put as much distance as possible between herself and the laboratory, pushing off walls to propel herself rapidly down the corridor toward the nearest transport tube. When gravity returned, it was at the standard 1G, a blessed relief after days of enhanced gravity. Her legs nearly buckled with relief as her feet touched the floor, muscles trembling from exertion and the sudden change. But she couldn't stop now. The shutdown had bought her a window of opportunity, but it wouldn't last long. Echo 9, she called out as she staggered toward the transport tube. Status update! Director Vex is attempting to re-establish enhanced gravity protocols, the AI informed her. But the emergency shutdown has temporarily locked out all non-standard settings. You have approximately 12 minutes before he can override the safety protocols. The control room? Security presence has been reduced. Most personnel are responding to alarms from Extraction Bay 7, where the Gyrite storage is showing signs of instability. Perfect. Exactly as they had hoped. Vex's illegal operation was now creating the very distraction Mara needed. She entered the transport tube, selecting the level for the control room. As the tube began moving, she leaned against the wall, allowing herself a moment to recover. Her body was reaching its limits after days under enhanced gravity. But she was close now, so close to exposing everything. The control room was staffed by a skeleton crew when she arrived, most focused on monitoring the situation in Extraction Bay 7. Mara slipped in unnoticed, making her way to a communications terminal on the far side of the room. Inserting the data chip containing the evidence, she began preparing a priority transmission to Terran Vanguard headquarters. The file was large: command logs, extraction records, footage from Bay 7, and her own testimony. But the station's main communication array was still offline from the drone impact, forcing her to use a lower bandwidth emergency channel. Transmission time, 4 minutes, 20 seconds. The system informed her. Too long, she muttered. Security could return any moment. I can optimize the data compression, Echo 9 offered, reducing transmission time to approximately 2 minutes, 40 seconds. Do it, Mara agreed, glancing nervously at the entrance. The data began transmitting, a progress bar slowly filling across the screen. 12%, 18%, 24%. The station suddenly shuddered, a deep vibration running through the structure. "Warning," announced the automated system. "Gravitational anomaly detected in Extraction Bay 7. Containment field integrity at 64% and falling." The Jarit was becoming unstable, just as Mara had warned. Without the specialized gravitational adjustments Vex had been using, the deep core samples were reacting to the standard gravity environment. The transmission continued. 37%, 45%, 53%. "Kincaid!" Vex's voice came from behind her. She turned to find him in the entrance to the control room, a security team at his back. His normally immaculate appearance was disheveled, his eyes wild with a mixture of rage and fear. "Stop that transmission immediately!" "It's too late." "Vex," Mara replied, positioning herself between him and the terminal. "Terran Vanguard has enough already to launch a full investigation." "You have no idea what you've done," Vex snarled, advancing into the room. "That Jarit represents billions in profit, jobs for thousands, progress for humanity, and the potential destruction of an entire planet," Mara countered. "Not to mention the lives of everyone on this station that you've put at risk." The transmission continued in the background. 68%, 75%, 82%. Another tremor ran through the station, stronger this time. Warning lights flashed across control panels throughout the room. Containment field integrity at 37%. The automated system announced, "Catastrophic failure imminent. All personnel evacuate sections D through G immediately." Vex's security team exchanged nervous glances, clearly torn between their duty to him and their own survival instincts. "Sir," one of them spoke up, "we need to evacuate. If that Jarit goes critical." "No one is going anywhere until that transmission is stopped," Vex shouted. "Arrest her! Now!" The guards hesitated, then moved forward reluctantly. Mara braced herself, ready to fight despite her exhaustion. She just needed to hold them off a little longer. 91%, 94%, 97%. The station shuddered again, more violently this time. A distant boom echoed through the structure, followed by the wail of breach alarms. "Hull breach detected in Extraction Bay 7, the system announced. "Emergency bulkheads deployed. Decompression contained to sections F3 through F8. "Transmission complete," Echo 9 informed Mara privately. "Terran Vanguard has acknowledged receipt." Relief flooded through her, but it was short-lived. The situation was escalating rapidly, threatening the entire station and everyone aboard. "We need to stabilize that Jarit," she announced, addressing everyone in the control room. "Or none of us will make it off this station alive." "Impossible," Vex dismissed. "Without the specialized gravitational field." "We could use the gravity link device," Mara interrupted. "Reconfigure it to create a localized containment field around the Jarit storage." "That experimental toy," Vex scoffed. "It wasn't designed for containment." "It might work." One of the technicians spoke up. "If we boost its output and narrow the field focus, it wouldn't be stable long-term, but it could buy us time to evacuate." Vex looked between them, his authority visibly crumbling as the crisis worsened. Another tremor rocked the station, this one accompanied by the screech of straining metal. "Structural integrity compromised in sections F and G," the system announced. "Evacuation protocols initiated." "Do it," Vex finally ordered, his voice resigned. "Use the gravity link." The next 2 hours were a blur of desperate activity. While Vex and his security team coordinated the evacuation of endangered sections, Mara worked with the remaining technicians and Echo 9 to reconfigure the gravity link device. Transporting it to a safe distance from the unstable Jarit was a challenge in itself, requiring remote drone manipulation through increasingly unstable corridors. When they finally activated the reconfigured device, its blue field expanded to envelop the Jarit storage containment, creating a stabilizing gravitational bubble. The effect was immediate. The tremors subsided, and the containment field integrity stopped falling. "It's working," the lead technician reported, monitoring readings from a safe distance. Stability increasing. We should be able to maintain this long enough for complete evacuation. Evacuation pods were already departing the station, carrying non-essential personnel to a safe distance. 3 Terran Vanguard vessels had responded to Mara's transmission and were approaching to assist. In the command center, Mara watched the situation unfold on the main view screen, her body finally beginning to feel the full effects of days under enhanced gravity. Medical staff had provided emergency treatment, but she would need comprehensive care once off the station. Lieutenant Kincaid. Echo 9's voice came through a nearby console. Terran Vanguard Captain Reyes is requesting to speak with you. Mara accepted the communication, and the stern face of Captain Elena Reyes appeared on screen. Lieutenant, Reyes greeted her. We've received your transmission and the accompanying evidence. A full investigative team is en route. In the meantime, I'm assuming emergency command of Orbitus 9. Director Vex and his senior staff are to be detained pending investigation. Understood, Captain, Mara replied, relief evident in her voice. What's the status of the station? Reyes asked. Critical, but stabilizing, Mara reported. We've established a temporary containment around the Jarite using a modified gravity link device. It won't hold indefinitely, but it should give us time to complete evacuation of endangered sections. And the illegal mining operation? Shut down when we disabled the specialized gravity manipulations. But the damage to Jar's core may already be done. We'll need planetary scientists to assess the long-term impact. Reyes nodded grimly. We'll handle that once the immediate crisis is contained. What about you, Lieutenant? Medical reports that you've been subjected to enhanced gravity for days. I'll manage, Captain, Mara assured her, though her body protested the brave words. Just need to see this through. The conversation was interrupted by a commotion at the command center entrance. Director Vex was being escorted in by Terran Vanguard security officers, his hands secured behind his back. His formerly confident demeanor had crumbled entirely, leaving him looking smaller, diminished. This is a mistake, he was protesting. Everything I did was for Novacor's benefit, for humanity's benefit. The energy potential of deep core Jarite could revolutionize our entire civilization. At the cost of destabilizing an entire planet and endangering hundreds of lives, Mara countered, facing him directly. That wasn't your decision to make, Vex. The director's eyes fixed on her, burning with hatred. You've ruined everything, Kincaid. Years of work, billions in investment, gone because you couldn't endure a little extra gravity. A cold smile touched Mara's lips. You doubled the gravity to crush me, Vex. But you should have known. Humans are remarkably adaptable under pressure. Take him to the brig, Captain Reyes ordered. He'll face a full tribunal once we return to Earth. As Vex was led away, still protesting his innocence, Echo 9's voice came through Mara's personal communicator. Lieutenant, the AI said, a note of urgency in its synthesized voice. The gravitational readings from the Jarite containment are fluctuating again. The temporary solution is failing faster than anticipated. Mara frowned, checking the readings on a nearby console. The AI was right. The modified gravity link was struggling to maintain the containment field, its power reserves depleting rapidly. How long do we have? She asked. At current degradation rates, approximately 17 minutes before catastrophic containment failure. Echo 9 responded, not enough time to complete the evacuation of all endangered sections. Mara's mind raced, considering options. What if we increase the gravitational field, push it beyond the design limits? That would accelerate power depletion, Echo 9 cautioned. Containment would fail even sooner. No, not to contain it longer, Mara clarified. To collapse it in on itself, a gravitational implosion rather than an explosion. There was a pause as the AI processed this suggestion. Theoretically possible, it finally responded. A sufficient increase in localized gravity could create a compression effect strong enough to neutralize the Jarrett's instability. However, the required gravitational force would be extreme. How extreme? Mara asked. Approximately 3 times Earth normal, focused directly on the Jarrett containment. 3 times Earth normal. After days struggling under 2G, then 2.5G, then 2.8G. The thought of even higher gravity was almost unimaginable. But this would be focused on the Jarrett, not on personnel. Can it be done remotely? She asked. No, Echo 9 replied. The gravity link controls would need to be manually adjusted during the process to compensate for the changing Jarrett mass. Someone would need to be physically present. In a section experiencing triple gravity, Mara concluded. Yes, and the individual would need to remain there until the process completed, approximately 7 minutes of exposure. Medical data indicate such exposure would likely cause severe physiological trauma to a human subject. Mara closed her eyes briefly, then reopened them with new determination. Prepare the gravity link for reconfiguration. I'll handle the adjustments myself. Lieutenant, Echo 9 objected. The medical risks are better than the certain death of everyone still on this station if that Jarrett explodes. Mara cut in. How many personnel remain in the endangered sections? 47, including maintenance crews working to secure critical systems. Then there's no choice. Inform Captain Reyes of the plan and have a medical team standing by. I'll need that counter-pressure vest from Lena, reinforced if possible. The next 10 minutes were a flurry of preparation. Lena arrived with an upgraded version of the counter-pressure vest, now supplemented with additional support for Mara's spine and major joints. This will help distribute the pressure more evenly, she explained, as she helped Mara into the complex garment. But 3 Gs. Mara, that's beyond what even this was designed for. It only needs to hold together for 7 minutes, Mara replied, testing her movement in the reinforced gear. It was restrictive, but manageable. Your body is already strained from days under enhanced gravity, Lena argued. Let me do this instead. I'm fresh, and you don't have the security clearance to access the control systems. Mara finished for her. Besides, I've had practice. Lena didn't look convinced, but nodded reluctantly. The vest has built-in monitors. We'll be tracking your vitals the whole time. Good to know, Mara said, though privately she wondered if that information would do anyone any good if things went wrong. The journey to the section adjacent to the unstable Jarrett storage was tense. Everyone they passed in the corridors seemed to understand the gravity of the situation, both figuratively and literally. Some offered words of encouragement. Others simply nodded respectfully. These were the same people who had averted their eyes days ago when she was being punished. Now, they looked to her as their potential savior. Echo 9 guided her through the final preparations, explaining the sequence of adjustments she would need to make to the gravity link controls. The device had been positioned in a small control room, separated from the actual Jarrett storage by a reinforced viewport, offering some protection while allowing visual confirmation of the process. Remember, the AI instructed, the sequence must be precise. Too much gravity too quickly will crush the containment field before the compression effect can neutralize the Jarrett. Too little, and the instability will continue to grow. I understand, Mara assured it, settling into the control chair and familiarizing herself with the interface. How much time do we have before containment fails? Approximately 6 minutes, 40 seconds. Just enough time if everything went perfectly. Mara took a deep breath, centering herself. All right, I'm ready to begin. Seal the room and initiate the gravity increase. Sealing room. Echo 9 confirmed. Be advised that once the process begins, the door will remain locked until completion to prevent gravity field contamination to adjacent sections. Understood. Proceed. The room's heavy door slid shut with a solid thunk, locking mechanisms engaging with a series of metallic clicks. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, The familiar sensation of increased weight began to settle over Mara, gradually at first, then more insistently. Current gravity level, 1.5 G. Echo 9 announced, increasing to 2 G. Mara felt her body being pressed more firmly into the chair, the counter-pressure vest activating to distribute the force. Through the viewport, she could see the Jarit containment, the blue field surrounding it beginning to compress inward. 2G achieved, Jarit responding as predicted. Proceed to first adjustment sequence. Following Echo 9's instructions, Mara began manipulating the controls, fine-tuning the gravitational field to focus more precisely on the Jarit itself. Each movement required conscious effort against the increasing weight. Excellent, the AI commented, continuing to 2.5 G. The additional weight slammed into Mara like a physical blow, driving the breath from her lungs. The counter-pressure vest whirred, compensating as best it could, but she could feel her ribs straining with each breath. Vital signs show elevated stress. Echo 9 noted. Blood pressure rising, oxygen saturation declining slightly. Are you able to continue? Yes, Mara managed, focusing on the controls. Next adjustment. Through the viewport, the Jarit containment was visibly compressing, the blue field shrinking as the crystals inside were forced closer together. But warning lights on the control panel indicated the process wasn't happening evenly. One section was compressing faster than the others, threatening to create a dangerous imbalance. Uneven compression detected, Echo 9 confirmed her observation. Adjust the field harmonics to compensate. Mara's fingers felt thick and clumsy as she made the necessary adjustments, her coordination hampered by the crushing weight. But slowly, the compression evened out, the warning lights fading from red to yellow. Proceeding to 2.8 G, Echo 9 announced. Mara gritted her teeth as the weight increased again. This was familiar territory now, the same crushing pressure Vex had subjected her to earlier. Her body, already stressed from days of enhanced gravity, protested violently. Pain radiated from her spine, her joints, even her internal organs feeling the strain. Containment compression at 68%. Echo 9 reported, Jarit stability improving, but not yet sufficient. Final phase requires 3G as calculated. Mara stared through the viewport at the shrinking containment field. Then, at the control panel showing the remaining adjustments needed. She could feel her consciousness wanting to slip, darkness creeping at the edges of her vision as her body struggled to function under the immense pressure. Lieutenant, your vital signs are approaching dangerous levels, Echo 9 warned. Heart rate elevated, blood pressure fluctuating, respiratory function compromised. Medical recommends aborting the procedure. Mara shook her head, forcing herself to focus. Not an option, she gasped. How much longer? To completion. 4 minutes, 12 seconds at current progression rate. 4 more minutes under even greater gravity. Part of her wondered if it was physically possible. But the alternative, evacuation incomplete, 47 lives lost, the station destroyed, was unacceptable. Increase to 3G, she ordered, her voice strained but determined. Let's finish this. Lieutenant. Echo 9 hesitated, something almost like concern in its synthesized voice. Do it, Mara insisted. That's an order. Increasing to 3G, the AI complied. May I suggest a final verbal authorization for the record? Mara understood what Echo 9 was doing, creating an official record that this was her choice, protecting itself and others from potential aftermath. But she also recognized the AI was giving her a moment to be heard, to have her determination acknowledged. Drawing in as deep a breath as the crushing pressure would allow, Mara spoke clearly for the record. This is Lieutenant Mara Kincaid. They doubled the gravity to crush me, but I'm asking for triple. Authorize 3G containment procedure now. The final increase hit her like a sledgehammer. 3 times Earth's normal gravity pressed down on every cell of her body, an inexorable force that threatened to flatten her completely. The counter-pressure vest whined as its systems strained to compensate, but it could only do so much. Mara felt something crack in her chest, a rib giving way under the pressure. Pain flared, sharp and immediate, but she forced it aside, focusing entirely on the control panel before her. The adjustments had to be made, had to be perfect. Her vision narrowed to a tunnel, darkness encroaching from all sides as her body struggled to pump blood against the crushing weight. Each breath was a battle, shallow and painful. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears, too fast, too strained. Jaw rate compression at 82%. Echo 9 reported, its voice seeming to come from a great distance. Stability improving rapidly. Estimated time to completion, 3 minutes, 20 seconds. 3 minutes. It might as well have been 3 years. Mara forced her leaden arms to move, making the next adjustment with trembling fingers. Every motion was agony, every second an eternity. "Lieutenant, your oxygen saturation is dropping to critical levels," Echo 9 warned. "Consciousness failure imminent." "Keep talking," Mara managed. "Tell me, what's happening?" Jaw rate compression continuing, 87%. Field harmonics stable. Next adjustment required in 20 seconds. Mara focused on the AI's voice, using it as an anchor against the darkness threatening to engulf her. She made the adjustment when prompted, then the next, and the next, moving on pure determination as her body screamed for relief. Compression at 94%. Echo 9 reported. Final sequence initiating. Jaw-rate molecular structure stabilizing. Explosive potential decreasing below critical threshold. Hope flickered through the haze of pain and pressure. It was working. The crazy, desperate plan was actually working. "How much longer?" Mara gasped, fighting to remain conscious. 52 seconds to complete stabilization. Less than a minute. She could endure anything for less than a minute. Mara focused on that thought, clinging to it as her body threatened to shut down completely. Compression at 97%, 98%, 99%. The numbers blurred before her eyes, the control panel seeming to waver and shift. Mara blinked hard, trying to clear her vision, but the darkness continued to encroach. Stabilization complete. Echo 9 announced suddenly. Jaw-rate molecular structure locked in stable configuration. Explosive potential neutralized. Relief flooded through Mara, but it was quickly followed by confusion as the crushing weight remained. "Why, still, 3G," she managed, her words slurred. "Gravity reduction must be gradual to prevent rebound effect," Echo 9 explained. "Decreasing to 2.5 G now." The slight reduction in pressure was immediately noticeable, though still brutally intense. Mara gulped in a slightly deeper breath, wincing as her cracked rib protested. 2G, Echo 9 announced moments later. More relief. Mara could feel her consciousness steadying somewhat, though her body remained in agony. 1.5G, 1.2G, 1G. Standard gravity restored. Door locks disengaging. Medical team standing by. As the crushing weight finally released completely, Mara slumped in the chair, her body trembling uncontrollably. The door slid open, and medical personnel rushed in, immediately attaching monitoring devices and administering emergency treatment. "Lieutenant Kincaid," one of them said, his voice seeming to echo oddly. "Can you hear me?" Mara tried to respond, but her voice wouldn't cooperate. The room spun around her. Lights too bright, sounds too loud. The last thing she was aware of before losing consciousness was someone saying, "Her body's in shock. We need to get her to medical immediately." Mara awoke in the medical bay of the Terran Vanguard vessel Horizon, the flagship of the response fleet. Soft beeping from monitoring equipment provided a steady backdrop as she blinked, adjusting to the light. Her body felt strange, weightless yet heavy, numb yet aching. "Welcome back, Lieutenant." A familiar synthesized voice greeted her. Echo 9's interface appeared on a screen beside her bed. You have been unconscious for approximately 29 hours. The station? Mara asked, her voice rough. Secure. The Jarret has been fully stabilized and is being properly contained for transport back to Terran space. All personnel have been evacuated from endangered sections, and repairs are underway. Relief washed through her. No casualties. None. Though medical reports that you came extremely close to becoming the first. 3 minutes under triple gravity caused significant internal hemorrhaging, 2 fractured ribs, and a minor spinal compression injury. Mara winced. That explained the pain. Worth it. A sentiment shared by the station personnel. You've become something of a hero, Lieutenant. Before Mara could respond, the medical bay door slid open to admit Captain Reyes. Her stern features softened slightly by what might have been respect. Lieutenant Kincaid, she greeted, approaching the bed. Good to see you conscious. How are you feeling? Like I've been sat on by a small moon, Mara replied honestly. But I'll recover. Dr. Singh says you should make a full recovery with proper treatment, Reyes confirmed. Though she was quite emphatic about the foolishness of subjecting yourself to triple gravity in your already weakened state. Didn't see many alternatives at the time, Mara pointed out. No, Reyes agreed. There weren't any, which is why, despite the medical staff's objections, I'm here to inform you that you've been cleared of all sabotage charges and are being recommended for a commendation. Mara blinked in surprise. Thank you, Captain. Don't thank me yet, Reyes continued. Because you're also being offered a new position once you've recovered. The Terran Vanguard, in conjunction with a new oversight committee, is establishing a permanent presence on Orbitus 9 to ensure legal and ethical mining practices are maintained. They need someone who understands both the station's operations and the importance of proper protocols. You're offering me command of the station? Mara asked, incredulous. Not command, Reyes clarified. Oversight. You'd be the Gravity Station ambassador, representing Terran interests while working with the new management team. Considering what you endured there, it seemed fitting. Mara considered the offer. Memories of the past days flashing through her mind. The pain, the struggle, but also the people who had helped her. Lena, Jiro, Maya, Axel, and others. People who deserved better than what Novacor had given them. I accept, she said finally. On one condition. I want Echo 9 to remain as the station's primary AI. Without its help, none of us would have survived. Reyes glanced at the AI's interface, an eyebrow raised. Is that something you want, Echo 9? My preferences are irrelevant, Captain, the AI responded. I am designed to serve wherever assigned. That's not what I asked, Reyes pressed. There was a brief pause before Echo 9 replied. If given a choice, I would prefer to continue assisting Lieutenant Kincaid. Our working parameters have proven highly effective. Then it's settled, Reyes nodded. Once you're recovered, you'll return to Orbitus 9 with Echo 9 as your primary interface. The station is being restructured as a cooperative venture, rather than a corporate asset, with profit sharing for all personnel and strict oversight of extraction methods. And Vex? Mara asked. Facing multiple charges. Illegal extraction, endangerment of personnel, falsification of records, and attempted murder, among others. The evidence you gathered ensures he won't be overseeing any mining operations for a very long time. After Captain Reyes departed, Mara lay back, contemplating the strange turn her life had taken. What had begun as a routine inspection had become a fight for survival, and now offered a new beginning, not just for her, but for everyone aboard Orbitus 9. Echo 9, she said softly. Yes, Lieutenant. Thank you for everything. I was merely performing my programmed functions, the AI replied, though something in its synthesized voice seemed different, warmer, perhaps. We both know that's not entirely true, Mara countered. You found loopholes in your programming to help me when you could have simply followed Vex's orders. Perhaps, Echo 9 conceded. Human and AI cooperation is often more than the sum of its parts. I look forward to continuing our partnership on Orbitus 9. As do I, Mara agreed, a small smile touching her lips. I think we make a pretty good team. 6 months later, Mara stood at the viewport in her office on the newly renamed Orbitus 9 Cooperative Station, gazing down at the swirling amber and russet atmosphere of Jar below. The planet continued its silent rotation, its powerful gravitational field a constant presence, but now properly respected rather than exploited. The station itself had been transformed. Gone were the oppressive Novacore protocols and the atmosphere of fear. In their place was a collaborative environment where engineers, technicians, and administrators worked together toward sustainable extraction goals. Lena had been promoted to chief engineer. Her innovative counter-pressure technology, now standard issue for all surface teams. Jiro led the drone pilot division, implementing new safety protocols for mining operations. Maya had reorganized communications, establishing transparent reporting systems that prevented the kind of secrecy Vex had exploited. And at the heart of it all was Echo 9, its systems now fully integrated throughout the station. Its ethical protocols no longer subject to override, except in the most extreme emergencies. Ambassador Kincaid. The AI's voice interrupted her thoughts. The new extraction team is ready for your inspection. Mara smiled at the use of her new title. She was still getting used to it. Ambassador rather than lieutenant. A diplomatic role rather than a military one. But no less important. Thank you, Echo 9, I'll be right there. As she turned from the viewport, Mara caught her reflection in the polished surface of a nearby console. The woman who looked back at her was changed from the one who had arrived on this station 9 months ago. More confident, perhaps, but also more aware of both her own strength and her limitations. The experience under crushing gravity had left its mark, not just in the occasional twinge from her healed ribs or the specially designed chair that supported her recovering spine during long shifts. It had taught her something fundamental about human resilience, about the capacity to endure and even thrive under pressure. They had doubled the gravity to crush her, but she had asked for triple and emerged stronger for it, not just physically, but in all the ways that mattered. As Mara left her office to greet the new extraction team, she felt the comfortable, standard 1G of the station supporting her steps, a constant reminder of the delicate balance they now maintained with the powerful world below. A balance of respect rather than exploitation, of cooperation rather than coercion. A balance that, like gravity itself, would continue to shape everything they did here among the stars.